So now that we're getting into really the meat of the 2022 midterm elections, we've had some primaries. We have a bunch of other primaries coming up. We are getting into the farcical cringe stage of many of these candidacies. And we're going to look at a couple of different candidates and ads today. We're going to start with Mehmet Oz. Mehmet Oz is running for Senate. He's running in the Republican primary in Pennsylvania. He's been endorsed by Trump, but as we saw yesterday in some clips from the weekend's rally, many Trumpists aren't thrilled with Mehmet Oz. And one of the reasons that they're not thrilled with Mehmet Oz is that really he has a decade plus of saying stuff about politics that aligns more with the Democratic than the Republican Party. I think Mehmet Oz is completely unqualified. He's done quack doctor stuff on TV for years. He's dishonest, all these different things. But it is also true that at least some of his positions historically have lined up more with the Democratic Party than the Republican Party. This includes his views on guns. Early in the pandemic, he was more aligned with the pro-science side, which was the more left-leaning side, let's be frank. And he's recently had to change a lot of these positions. And he now has a completely, it almost seems satirical ad where he's firing guns. And the thing about this is the first level of cringe would be someone running and in a serious manner having these views about guns and doing these types of videos where they're out on the range firing at clay pigeons and this type of thing. The second layer of cringe is what Oz is doing, which is it doesn't even seem like it's genuine. He's pandering with this stuff, even though it doesn't align with the Mehmet Oz that we've known for a decade. So we're going to look at the ad. And if you're not watching, if you're just listening, I will mention that there's a particular shot where it sort of looks like Oz is shooting and hitting a clay pigeon. These are like these discs that are thrown into the air. But if you look at how it's cut, it's very obvious that they filmed him firing the weapon and then later filmed the clay pigeon exploding. And it's pretty damn obvious that Oz didn't hit the clay pigeon. Not that it matters. It's all absurd. So let's look at the ad and then we'll talk about it.
My father taught me how to handle my first gun. I taught my son Oliver how to do the same. I've been shooting and hunting my whole life. So when people say I won't support guns, they're dead wrong. Boom! Other conservatives know that I'm strong on the Second Amendment. Ted Nugent, Rick Perry, President Trump. But our Second Amendment is not just about hunting. It's about our constitutional right to protect ourselves from intruders or an overly intrusive government. So as your next U.S. Senator, I will fight for our constitutional rights.
Yeah. We need the guns to protect ourselves from an overly intrusive government, sort of like one that says there's no right to an abortion and states can ban it. Listen, we have a Second Amendment. We have a Second Amendment, period. I mean, right? I support mandatory gun training, licensing, relicensing, mandatory insurance, eliminating the so-called gun show or boyfriend loophole or whatever they're calling it these days. You got to have a background check for every transaction. We have a Second Amendment, and I support all of that stuff. Oz has had a somewhat similar view to that for most of his public record until recently. And now it's very clear that he'll say whatever the hell he has to in order to try to win a Republican primary. And this is very similar to the Trump abortion thing. Oz pushed gun safety regulations most of his public life. He wrote op-eds. He said we need gun control. We need to, quote, stop gun violence. We need to treat shootings as a public health emergency, which I agree with. And then now all of a sudden he's having to backtrack and find and stake out this new position. Remember, Donald Trump was pro-choice his entire life, right? He was 68 years old and he had been pro-choice his entire public life up until that point. He had no shot at winning the Democratic presidential nomination in 2016. So he ran as a Republican and he had to stake out a position on abortion that would be palatable to Republicans. So Trump came up with this awakening that he had. He knew, people around him knew, you need a story. You need an explanation as to why you were pro-choice for 68 years and now you are suddenly anti-choice. And Trump's story, paraphrased, was he met a kid once. I don't remember if the kid was 12 or 16 at the time. And the kid's mother said to Trump, I thought about getting an abortion, and I decided not to. And the awakening Trump had was, wow, I like this kid. This is a good kid. Abortion is bad. And now I'm against abortion for all these different reasons that are completely unbelievable. This is kind of a similar thing, which is Oz now has to stake out this wildly pro-gun position. Now, how is is this helping him? How is the primary and how is the race going? So on the Republican side, Oz does appear to be winning, although it's within the margin of error. On average, Oz is ahead of the second place candidate, McCormick, by 2.5, and then ahead of the third place candidate, Barnett, by 4 points. Now, it's almost certain that if McCormick or Barnett bowed out, the other one would consolidate a bunch of that support and might be able to defeat Oz. But that's the way it's looking right now. Oz with a slight lead. And then over on the Democratic side, John Fetterman, who is my choice, although his debate performance wasn't very good. Fetterman is my choice in Pennsylvania. He has opened up on an average a 31-point lead over the second place contender, Connor Lamb. So it's almost certainly going to be Fetterman against whoever wins the Republican primary. So that's what's going on there. We'll continue to watch it. And Dr. Oz used to do surgeries on people. That's quite a thing. As many of you know, I'm a busy person. I don't always have the exact correct nutritional plan for my meals every single day. And that's why I also take a multivitamin and a couple of supplements. But doing them all separately can be a little bit time consuming, which is why Athletic Greens is just fantastic. And they're one of our sponsors. I've been using the Athletic Greens since last year. It just really simplifies nutrition. I just do a scoop of the AG1 and I'm getting 75 high quality vitamins and minerals and my probiotics, and it's all from whole food sources. I drink it in the morning. I know I'm good. I don't have to be messing around with different pills and supplements or whatever, or spend time planning what time of day do I need to take each one. I just get it all with one scoop. You can put it in a smoothie. You can drink it straight. It tastes great. And then I'm just good for the day. It supports gut health, and I'm getting everything that I need and I'm looking for. Athletic Greens is giving my audience a free 1-year supply of vitamin D plus 5 free travel packs when you go to athleticgreens.com/Pacman, and the link is down below.